This board was up on the original club there in the Rosemary District for many years, and it detailed those fighters who at that time were training at the club. Some of these people unfortunately have passed, and some are still with the club, believe it or not. Some are now coaches, and that was an impressive thing up on the wall outside in the Rosemary District for many years.
To see your ring set up, your canvas, this board up here, pictures of Ali, and just to see everything back up and running, how special is it and how gratifying is it?
Oh, it's way beyond special. After months of feeling that maybe I'll never get another gym back, that was really going back and forth throughout my mind. Finally, when this place showed itself in March, hands started coming together.
Roberto Duran, June 20th of 1980. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, one of the greatest fighters of all time was Roberto Duran, maybe the greatest lightweight fighter of all time, arguably, and he's one of my favorites. He had everything it took to be a great fighter, and his fights with Sugar Ray Leonard were legendary.
Customato finds Mike Tyson in Brooklyn and takes him up to the Catskills, and he becomes a world champion. And somebody said his job was to avenge Ali's, go get the belt back for Ali. Tell us about Customato and Tyson and their relationship.
Well, it was a very special relationship that came together. That was a father figure for Mike Tyson. Unfortunately, when Customato, who so much loved Mike and taught him about life as well as boxing, when he passed, something happened to Mike Tyson that never was recovered, and he was never the same after that. And he started going his own way, which was not a good way.
Ray Leonard out of Maryland, 1976 Olympics, Montreal. He was able to be very successful. When you think about Sugar Ray Leonard, what goes through your mind?
In my top 5 of all time as a fighter, including the original Sugar Ray Robinson, I met Sugar Ray Leonard during an interview for when one of my guys fought for the world title in Vegas in '97. I found him to be a very, very nice person to speak with, and it was a thrill to meet him in person after seeing him fighting so many years.
The original Rocky. What are your thoughts on Rocky?
I felt that Rocky Marciano, you're referring to, for that time when he was fighting, he was the man. He was actually in the 180s, a short guy, 5'10"-ish. In the particular time that he ruled, he was the best. He was in supreme condition, and there were some allegations that there were fights that were avoided with some black fighters that may have well gotten with Rocky, but his management avoided those situations. So he retired undefeated, and unfortunately he died in that plane crash.
Aaron Pryor.
Aaron Pryor, one of the best all-time, top 10 in my opinion, fighters. I had a little personal relationship. My trainer from New York, Artie Curley, was in the corner when Alexis Arguello fought Aaron Pryor on 2 occasions. So I had some, you could say, skin in the game in those fights.
Benitez.
Tremendous fighter, the youngest champion of all time until that time. I'm not sure if it's been eclipsed now. He became a world champion at the age of 17, and his fight with Sugar Ray was an amazing fight.
Chavez, a guy who could take a lot of punishment, and he just wouldn't fall.
Right, possibly also top 10 in my association with boxing of all time. Perhaps the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, arguably. A tremendous competitor who fought as an undefeated fighter for many years until his first loss, and he was just a relentless body puncher.
Muhammad Ali.
My hero growing up. He was the man for me. He changed the face of boxing and became more than just boxing. He became a world figure. And I think that famous situation will never be matched again in boxing, to become so much of a world figure beyond just a figure in your sport.
Big George Foreman.
Oh boy, what a story. He had several lives as a boxer. The original George Foreman was a ferocious cat, and then he got into the world of religion, and he came back, and he had an amazing career once he came back.
Sweet Pea, Pernell Whitaker out of Virginia.
Again, arguably top 10, top 15 fighters of all time. He met an untimely demise crossing a street, but his defensive prowess was one of the tops ever in boxing.
Brockton, Massachusetts. You look at you look at one of the greatest in Marvelous Marvin, Hagler. Talk about Hagler, and he was ready to go toe to toe.
Yes, a fighter with a mentality almost unmatched in the history of boxing. His focus was on destruct and destroy, and he proceeded to do that with basically every opponent he ever was in there with. His fight with Sugar Ray arguably could have gone either way. It went in favor of Sugar Ray, and after that fight, Marvin, something happened mentally with him. He didn't want any other fights after that, moved to Italy.
James Buster Douglas.
Oh boy, right time, right situation. Unfortunately, his mother passed just before his fight with Mike Tyson. He was motivated beyond belief because of that. He did it for his mother, and he beat the great Mike Tyson, who, the story goes afterwards, didn't train for that fight hardly at all, as well as for some other fights. Again, once he lost Cuss, a lot was lost with Mike Tyson, and he lost that fight amazingly to many people.
Joe Louis.
Arguably, possibly the greatest heavyweight of all time. Is a tremendous fight, you could say, between him and Muhammad Ali to be one of the greatest heavyweights. You could put Larry Holmes in there too, Lennox Lewis in there too. An incredible heavyweight who fought and represented this country against Nazism and the Germany of that time, and he did an amazing job representing this country.
For decades, the belts were always stateside. Currently, those belts might be overseas, but talk a little bit about the heavyweight belts, and guys say they really want to bring those home, so to speak.
Yeah, well, right now, one of the guys, my guys, fought in Vegas 3 years ago, is arguably the top heavyweight in this country, Jared Anderson. Great fighter. He's undefeated. He's fighting again soon. And Tyson Fury, anything you could say about him, he's the top heavyweight, in my opinion, in the world right now. And it's going to be a hell of a fighter who beats him.
A gentleman out of Atlanta by the name of, talk a little bit about the heavyweight Evander Holyfield.
Okay, I met Evander in Sarasota years ago, found him to be a great person. My fighter fought right after his ear was bitten off in Vegas in '97, so I was right close with him then, and I found him to be a very humble and giving guy.
Best fighters all time in Florida, in your opinion?
Oh, you have to put Antonio Tarver up there, who I was going to be partners with at a previous gym. That didn't work out. He's up in Tampa now, part of a new promotion. Whoa, Antonio Tarver. I'm a little lost right now in terms of Florida fighters, but he's right up there with the top Florida fighters ever.
When we think about Ali's history, he spent some time working out in Miami.
Yes. Okay, if you're going to count him as a Florida fighter, he was in the old Fifth Street gym with his original trainer, Angelo Dundee. And yeah, he's definitely to be considered up there as, of course, if you're counting him as a Florida guy, #1 Florida guy ever.